It was supposed to be just a missing pet, but what she found in the forest was something far worse, a curse older than life itself. And when she thought the nightmare was over, the spiral awakened. This is the terrifying story of the haunted rabbit. Watch until the end because what happens will shock you. Lena was a shy but bright 17-year-old girl who lived in a small town surrounded by dense woods. Her best friend wasn't another human, it was a fluffy white rabbit named Oliver. Oliver wasn't just any rabbit. He was unusually smart, responded to his name, and always followed Lena around like a loyal puppy. Lena had raised Oliver since he was a tiny baby, abandoned near her house during a stormy night. Since then, they were inseparable. Every day after school, Lena would spend hours in her backyard, playing with him, feeding him carrots, and even teaching him simple tricks. To her, Oliver wasn't just a pet, he was family. Life was simple, peaceful. But as the sun set on a chilly autumn evening, something felt off. The wind carried an unusual smell, something rotten, something sick. Birds flew away in flocks, and the woods that usually echoed with the sounds of life became eerily silent. That night, a breaking news alert flashed on every TV and phone in the area. Unknown virus. Outbreak detected in wildlife. Citizens advised to stay indoors. Lena's heart raced. She locked every door and window, grabbed Oliver, and held him close, but the unease only grew stronger. In the distance, strange noises echoed from the forest, groans, screeches, and the sound of something being torn apart. As the clock ticked past midnight, Lena heard scratching, no, frantic clawing at the back door. Her blood froze. Slowly, she peeked out the window. There, standing under the moonlight, was a wild rabbit. But it wasn't normal. Its fur was matted, its eyes bloodshot, and its mouth foamed like something rabid. It suddenly threw itself at the glass with a loud thud, cracking it slightly. Oliver trembled in Lena's arms, thumping his back legs rapidly, sensing the danger. But before Lena could react, the wild rabbit collapsed, convulsing violently, and then stopped moving entirely. The next morning, the body was gone. Only a trail of blackened blood remained, leading into the woods. Lena checked Oliver. He seemed fine, normal. But later that afternoon, while feeding him, she noticed a small scratch on his paw, a scratch that wasn't there before. Her heart dropped. Something was very wrong. For the rest of the day, Lena tried to ignore the pit growing in her stomach. It's just a scratch, she told herself over and over, trying to convince her trembling hands to stay steady. But deep down, her instinct screamed otherwise. By evening, Oliver began acting strange. Normally energetic, hopping around and begging for treats, now he sat perfectly still in the corner of his hutch, staring at nothing. His little nose, which always twitched nonstop, was frozen. Even when Lena opened his favorite bag of dried bananas, he didn't budge. "Come on, Oliver, don't do this to me," she whispered, reaching into the hutch to gently stroke his back. His fur felt colder than usual. His breathing was shallow. His bright, playful eyes were glazed over, almost as if something was clouding his mind. Suddenly, Oliver jerked his head towards Lena's hand and snapped his teeth, hard. Not enough to bite her, but enough to startle her. Oliver had never done anything like that, ever. "Oliver, what's wrong with you?" she whispered, pulling her hand back in shock. Panic set in. She quickly searched her phone for emergency vets nearby, but her screen was flooded with alerts. Local clinics closed. Emergency lockdown in effect. A virus was spreading rapidly among wild animals. Rabbits, squirrels, even birds were attacking anything they saw. People were reporting strange behavior, bites, and disappearances. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from outside. Lena ran to the window. Dozens of wild rabbits were swarming the neighborhood. They were scratching at fences, chewing through garbage cans, some even fighting each other violently. Their eyes glowed red in the dim light. Lena sprinted back to Oliver's hutch, but it was empty. The door was broken. A trail of tiny, bloody footprints led from the hutch out the back gate and into the woods. "No, no, no, Oliver, no," she screamed, her voice cracking. Without thinking, she grabbed her flashlight, stuffed supplies into her backpack, a first aid kit, snacks, water, and threw on her jacket. Her hands trembled as she reached for her father's old hunting knife, the only thing that might protect her out there. "I'll find you, Oliver, I promise," she whispered to herself, stepping into the cold, dark woods. The trees loomed like shadows. In the distance, something growled. She was no longer just looking for her pet. She was about to step into a nightmare. The forest had never felt this suffocating before. Each step Lena took seemed to echo louder than it should, crunching over dry leaves and brittle branches. Her flashlight beam cut through the thick darkness, revealing twisted roots and ominous shadows that seemed to move when she wasn't looking directly at them. "Oliver, please, where are you?" she called softly, her voice trembling. Suddenly, a sharp screech pierced the air, a sound so unnatural it made her blood run cold. It was followed by the frantic thumping of small feet. Something was moving fast between the trees. Lena spun her flashlight toward the sound, only to catch a glimpse of a small white figure darting through the underbrush. "Oliver," she gasped. She bolted after it, pushing through branches that scratched at her skin. The figure disappeared behind a fallen log, but as Lena rounded the corner, her heart stopped. In front of her were not one, but 3 rabbits. But these weren't normal. Their fur was patchy, their eyes glowing a deep, terrifying red, and their mouths dripped with thick black saliva. The rabbits turned toward her, heads twitching violently, and let out a guttural hiss, something no rabbit should ever make. Lena stumbled back, gripping her knife, her breath ragged. One rabbit lunged forward, teeth bared. Without thinking, she swung the blade wildly, nicking its side. It let out a blood-curdling screech before scurrying back into the shadows. Her chest heaved. This isn't real. This can't be real. Then a familiar sound caught her ear. A soft, broken thump. The sound of a rabbit's back legs, pounding the ground in distress. She turned slowly, and there, standing by an old hollow tree, was Oliver. But something was terribly wrong. His fur was stained, his ears drooped unnaturally, and his little eyes flickered. They were cloudy, but not fully red like the others, as if something inside him was fighting, struggling. "Oliver, it's me. It's okay," Lena whispered, slowly stepping forward. At first, Oliver hesitated. His head tilted, and for a brief second it looked like recognition sparked in his eyes. But then, he twitched violently, let out a distorted growl, and bolted deeper into the forest. "No, Oliver, wait!" Lena screamed, sprinting after him. She chased him through twisted paths, over rocks and across streams, her legs burning and lungs screaming for air. Just as she reached a clearing, Lena tripped, falling face first into the mud. As she struggled to get up, she realized the forest was silent again, completely silent. Then a whisper, not from a person, not from an animal, but from somewhere deeper, something older. "Come, find him, if you dare." Lena sat frozen, her hands sinking into the cold mud, her breath shallow. "I didn't hear that. I couldn't have," she muttered, trying to convince herself the whisper was just her mind playing tricks. But then it came again, faint, raspy, like the wind itself was speaking. "Find him before it's too late." Her flashlight flickered. The batteries were starting to die. Panic surged through her chest as she frantically tapped it, praying for it to stay on. The beam steadied, but now it revealed something she hadn't noticed before. Footprints. Tiny, muddy rabbit prints, but not just Oliver's. Surrounding them were dozens of others, some larger than any rabbit could possibly make. Claw marks were carved deep into the dirt and into nearby tree trunks, as if something far worse than infected rabbits was lurking here. A low growl rumbled from somewhere beyond the trees. Not a rabbit, not even close. Lena forced herself to stand, wiping her hands on her jacket. Her legs shook, but her determination burned hotter. "I'm not leaving without you, Oliver. I don't care what's out here." She followed the tracks deeper into the woods, the trees growing thicker, their branches twisting, unnaturally, as if reaching out to trap her. Strange symbols were carved into the bark. Circles, X's, a spiral with a slash through it. Someone, or something, had been marking this place long before. Tonight, suddenly a loud snap echoed behind her. Lena spun around, nothing. Her flashlight flicked again. Then a figure stepped out from the shadows. It wasn't a rabbit, it was a man, at least it used to be. His skin was pale, almost gray, with deep gashes running down his face. His eyes were milky white, lips cracked, and his fingers twitched, unnaturally. Around his neck hung a string of, were those rabbit paws? Lost, aren't you? The man croaked, his voice as brittle as dead leaves. Lena gripped her knife tighter. I'm looking for my rabbit. He ran into the woods. The man's head tilted. A crooked grin spread across his face. A white one, with eyes fighting the sickness. Her heart skipped. You've seen him. Where is he? The man chuckled, a sound that sent ice down her spine. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't, but these woods, they don't like outsiders. And they certainly don't let the infected leave. What do you mean? Lena demanded, stepping back. He pointed a trembling finger toward a narrow path covered in thorns. You want to find him? You go, through there. But be warned, girl. The infection, it ain't just a sickness, it's a curse. Before she could ask anything else, the man faded backward into the darkness as if the shadows swallowed him whole. Lena gulped, turned toward the thorn path and whispered to herself, Hold on, Oliver, I'm coming. And with that, she stepped through, not knowing that things were about to get much worse. The moment Lena stepped into the narrow path, the air changed. It grew colder, heavier. The forest felt alive, breathing, watching. Thick, thorny vines arched overhead, forming a tunnel of darkness that swallowed what little moonlight remained. Every step forward felt like a decision she couldn't undo. Her jacket snagged on sharp thorns, tearing the fabric and scratching her skin. Blood trickled down her arm, but she barely noticed. Her focus was fixed on the tiny, fading footprints ahead, Oliver's. The silence was suffocating. No wind, no insects, just the sound of her own breathing. And something else, footsteps, soft, uneven, echoing hers but never quite in sync. You're not alone, her mind whispered. She gripped her knife tighter. Suddenly, a loud rustle came from her right. She spun the flashlight toward it, nothing. Just a hollow, rotting tree. Then a whisper, barely audible. Turn it back. Her heart pounded. Ignore it. Keep moving. A few steps later, Lena stumbled into a clearing, a place the trees avoided as if something terrible had happened there. Bones littered the ground, not just animals, something larger, something human. In the center stood an old wooden cage. Its bars were broken, clawed from the inside. The wood was stained with dark, almost black blood. Scratched into the dirt were words. It spreads. Lena shuddered, backing away, when suddenly a familiar sound stopped her cold. It was Oliver's distress signal, his back legs pounding the ground. It came from beyond the clearing, just past a dense wall of brush. Oliver? Lena cried, pushing through the thorny branches. On the other side, her flashlight caught him. There he was, huddled beneath a fallen tree, trembling, breathing heavily. His fur was dirty, matted, and streaked with what looked like dried blood. But his eyes, though cloudy, still showed a flicker of recognition. Lena rushed forward. It's okay, I've got you. Snap. From behind, heavy footsteps, not small, not animal, something huge. A growl so deep it rattled her bones echoed through the air. Slowly, she turned her head and saw them. A monstrous creature towering at least 7 feet tall, hunched over with limbs too long for its body. Patches of fur clung to decaying skin. Its head was grotesquely shaped like a rabbit's skull, but stretched, deformed, and split in places as if something inside was trying to break free. Its eyes burned with a crimson glow. It sniffed the air, and then locked eyes with her. Lena scooped Oliver into her arms and sprinted. The creature roared, crashing through the trees behind her, its massive claws slicing through branches like paper. Don't look back, just run, she screamed in her mind. Her feet pounded against the forest floor, dodging roots, leaping over fallen logs, her lungs on fire. But no matter how fast she ran, the creature was gaining. Suddenly, a ravine. Without thinking, Lena jumped. She fell, hit the slope, tumbled, and crashed hard into the dirt below. Her vision blurred. Pain exploded through her body. Oliver was still clutched tight in her arms, unconscious. Above, the creature roared, pacing the edge of the ravine, but it didn't jump. It waited, watching, and then it disappeared into the shadows. Lena coughed, groaning, pushing herself up. I can't stop now, I have to keep going. But as she stood, something else caught her eye. Carved into the rock wall before her was a strange, glowing symbol, and a tunnel leading underground. With no other option, Lena stepped inside. The tunnel was damp, narrow, and suffocating. The air smelled of mold, wet soil, and something far worse. Decay. The glowing symbol carved into the stone behind Lena pulsed faintly, casting an eerie, blue light over the jagged walls. Oliver was motionless in her arms, his little body trembling, caught between consciousness and something darker. Lena adjusted her grip on both her flashlight and her knife, stepping cautiously deeper into the underground passage. Water dripped from the ceiling, echoing like distant footsteps. Each step forward felt like the ground might collapse beneath her feet. "What is this place?" she whispered, her voice barely a breath. As she moved further, strange markings appeared along the walls, drawings, crude depictions of rabbits, humans, and monstrous figures. The scenes told a story, a sickness emerging from the woods, spreading, consuming. But the last image was different. It showed a figure, a girl, holding a white rabbit standing before a strange tree whose roots formed a glowing circle. Suddenly, Oliver stirred in her arms. His breathing quickened, his eyes fluttered open, but now they were different, glowing faintly, clouded, but still fighting. "Oliver, stay with me," Lena pleaded, her voice cracking. She pressed him close, desperate to protect him from whatever was happening inside his body. But then a voice, not a whisper, clear, loud, commanding. "You shouldn't be here." Lena froze. Her flashlight flicked to the right, revealing someone or something standing further down the tunnel. It was an old woman. Her face was gaunt, her skin wrinkled like aged paper. She wore a long cloak, made of stitched animal pelts, her eyes hollow yet sharp. In her hand, she held a staff made from twisted wood topped with a skull, small, unmistakably a rabbit's. I'm looking for a cure," Lena stammered. "For him." She held Oliver tighter. The woman's eyes narrowed. "A cure? Ha!" Her voice cracked into laughter, dry, bitter. "There is no cure, not for the cursed." There has to be," Lena shouted. "He's not fully gone. Look at him. He's still fighting it." The old woman slowly stepped closer, eyeing Oliver with unsettling curiosity. "Strange. Most turn within hours, but this one he resists. Rare, very rare. Tell me how to save him, please," Lena begged. The woman sighed, leaning on her staff. "There is one way, but it demands a price." Lena's heart raced. "Anything." The old woman pointed deeper into the tunnel. "Beyond this path lies the root, the heart of the infection. It grows, it feeds, it spreads. Burn the root, and the curse weakens. Burn it, and maybe, just maybe, he has a chance." Lena gulped. And what's the price?" The woman's gaze darkened. "You won't leave untouched. The forest marks those who defy it." Suddenly the ground trembled. A deep growl echoed from the tunnel ahead. "They've found you," the old woman hissed. "Go, now!" Without thinking, Lena sprinted forward, clutching Oliver as the tunnel quaked behind her. Shadows surged in the darkness, multiple shapes crawling, growling, following. The deeper she went, the closer she came to the heart of the nightmare. Lena's footsteps echoed against the stone as she sprinted through the suffocating tunnel, clutching Oliver tightly. The air grew thicker with every step, heavy with the stench of rot and something unnatural. The walls pulsed almost as if alive. Veins of black slime throbbed beneath the surface, glowing faintly with a sickly red light. The tunnel opened suddenly into an enormous underground cavern. Lena skidded to a stop, her breath catching in her throat. In the center stood the root, a monstrous, gnarled mass of twisted wood, flesh, and bone. Thick, black tendrils extended from it, crawling across the ground and vanishing into the cavern walls. The root pulsed, releasing clouds of dark spores into the air with every throb like a grotesque heartbeat. Around the base of the root were cages, dozens of them. Some held the remains of animals, others humans, bones, scraps of clothing, evidence of others who'd tried and failed. Then her flashlight flicked upward, revealing a horrifying sight. Dozens of rabbits suspended by black vines, twitching violently as the corruption spread through their bodies. Their eyes glowed red. Their mouths opened in silent screams. Lena staggered back, her stomach twisting. This is where it started." Oliver whimpered in her arms, twitching. His eyes flashed between cloudy gray and glowing red. He was running out of time. Suddenly, a deafening roar shattered the air. From the far side of the cavern, the beast from the ravine emerged. Its massive form crawled along, the walls like a spider, bones cracking, limbs twisting unnaturally. It was a grotesque fusion, part rabbit, part something else entirely. Horns jutted from its skull, its jaws split wider than possible, revealing rows of jagged teeth. It let out another roar and charged straight toward Lena. "No, no, no!" Lena sprinted, diving behind a fallen slab of rock as the creature's claws slammed down where she stood just moments before. Dust and debris exploded into the air. Her mind raced. "Burn the root, that's the only way!" Frantically, she searched her backpack, pulling out the lighter she packed, a small bottle of alcohol from her first aid kit, and a rag. Her hands trembled as she fashioned a makeshift Molotov. The creature shrieked, searching for her, sniffing the air. Come on," she whispered, flicking the lighter until it sparked. Flames caught. She stood, aimed at the root, and threw. The Molotov exploded into fire, engulfing part of the root. It let out an unearthly screech as the flames spread rapidly across its flesh-like bark. Black fluid bubbled, oozing from wounds as the root writhed. The cavern shook violently. The beast howled in agony, collapsing to its knees, claws thrashing wildly. The suspended rabbits convulsed, their bodies trembling as the corruption weakened. Oliver shrieked in Lena's arms, twitching uncontrollably. His eyes flickered red to gray, like something inside him was breaking free. But then the ground split. A massive root surged upward, slamming into the cavern ceiling. Rocks tumbled. The entire place was about to collapse. Lena had seconds to decide, run or finish this. Her jaw clenched. "No, I finish this." She sprinted toward the root, knife drawn, flames still spreading. With a scream, she plunged the blade deep into a glowing core at the center of the root. A blinding flash of red light exploded. The scream of the forest echoed into silence. Darkness swallowed everything. Total suffocating silence. Lena's eyes fluttered open to complete darkness. No fire, no light, no sound. Just a heavy weight, pressing down on her chest, making it hard to breathe. Dust filled her lungs with every gasping breath. Am I dead?" she whispered weakly. Pain shot through her body as she tried to move. Her legs were pinned beneath chunks of collapsed stone. Her head throbbed and blood dripped from a deep gash above her brow. But worse than Oliver, Oliver, she croaked, panic rising. Something stirred against her chest. A faint trembling movement. She quickly fumbled, brushing away rubble until her fingers found soft fur. His little body was curled tightly, twitching but breathing. "Oliver, you're okay," Lena sobbed, holding him close. But as her fingers brushed his face, she froze. His fur was warm, his nose was twitching, and his eyes no longer glowed red. "Oliver?" she whispered. He blinked slowly, then weakly pressed his head against her hand. His breathing was labored but steady. The infection, it was retreating. It worked. The root's destruction was weakening the curse, but the danger wasn't over. The cavern trembled again, sending fresh dust raining from above. Cracks spiderwebbed across the ceiling. The entire underground was moments from total collapse. "Come on, not like this," Lena growled, summoning every ounce of strength she had left. She shoved against the stone, trapping her legs, crying out as pain shot through her ankle. But it shifted. Once, twice, finally, with one last push, it rolled free. She stumbled to her feet, nearly collapsing, but forced herself upright. With Oliver cradled to her chest, she limped toward what remained of the tunnel entrance. But the path back was buried. Her flashlight was dead. Total darkness swallowed her. There has to be another way. Then Thabun, a faint glow, pale, greenish, coming from deeper within the cavern. Lena hesitated. Every instinct screamed at her to avoid it, but staying meant being buried alive. Gritting her teeth, she followed the light. As she rounded a corner, the source revealed itself. A strange tree growing from the center of a circular stone platform. Its bark shimmered with an unnatural glow and its roots pulsed softly beneath the ground. Symbols surrounded it, the same ones from the tunnel walls. In front of the tree stood a stone archway, cracked and weathered but still intact. Its center shimmered like water, rippling, shifting. A portal. Lena staggered forward. "What is this?" A whisper filled her ears. "Leave or be consumed." The cavern trembled again. Rocks split, dust fell in thick clouds. Lena didn't think twice. Clutching Oliver, she stepped through the portal. Instantly, light engulfed her. Her body felt weightless, as if floating through water. Voices echoed all. Around, some speaking, some screaming, others singing. Then, her feet hit solid ground. She stumbled forward, coughing, blinking against the sudden sunlight. Birds chirped. Wind rustled through leaves. She was outside, back in the forest. The portal behind her flickered once and then vanished. Lena collapsed to her knees, gasping for breath, holding Oliver tightly. Tears streamed down her face. Not of fear, but relief. They were alive, but deep in the wood, something still moved. The curse wasn't fully gone. Not yet. The sunlight felt surreal, too bright, too warm, as if the forest was pretending everything was normal. Lena knelt in the damp grass, trembling, her arms wrapped protectively around Oliver. His breathing was steady but weak, and while the infection no longer controlled him, its damage lingered. Lena glanced back. The portal was gone. Only a faint circle of scorched earth remained, its edges smoking slightly, as though the fabric of reality had been torn and hastily stitched back together. She stood slowly, legs shaky, surveying her surroundings. This wasn't the part of the forest she entered before. The trees here were older, twisted, thicker, their branches tangled like skeletal hands, reaching toward the sky. The wind carried whispers, not words, but the sensation of being watched. Followed, "We just need to get home," Lena muttered, squeezing Oliver gently. But as she turned toward what she hoped was the direction back to town, a chill ran through her spine. Carved deep into the nearest tree was the same symbol from the underground tunnel, a spiraled circle with a slash through it. Fresh, bleeding sap, as if the tree itself had been wounded. No, someone's been here recently. A crack of a branch snapped to her right. Lena spun, knife drawn. "Who's there?" Then, movement. A figure. Thin. Fast. Darting between the trees just out of sight. Then another. And another. Shadows weaving through the forest surrounding her. "Not again, please, not again," she whispered, gripping her knife tighter. Suddenly, a familiar voice echoed from behind a tree. Raspy. Broken. "You survived the route. Impressive." Lena's eyes widened. Stepping into view was the old man, the one she met before. His sunken eyes gleamed with something between madness and curiosity. "You again," Lena growled. What is this place? Why am I still here?" The man grinned, revealing cracked teeth. "The infection that runs deeper than roots. The tree below was just one branch, one limb of something much older, much angrier." Lena shook her head. "No, I destroyed it. I saw it burn." "You burned a piece, not the heart," he hissed, tapping his temple with a crooked finger. "The forest is alive, girl. It remembers, it adapts. You killed its child, now it watches." The wind shifted. Every tree groaned. Shadows writhed. Lena backed away. "I just want to go home. I don't care about any of this." "Oh, but it cares about you," the man whispered. "You're marked now. You broke the balance. The forest doesn't forgive." Behind him, something stirred in the shadows. Large. Heavy. Breathing. "I don't care," Lena snapped, holding Oliver tighter. "I'm leaving." The man chuckled. "Then run, little rabbit, run." His form dissolved into black mist, vanishing between the trees. A deep growl rumbled from the forest behind her. Twigs snapped, leaves rustled. Lena didn't wait. She turned and ran, limping but fast, dodging branches, leaping over roots, heart pounding like a war drum. Oliver trembled in her arms, pressing close, as if he too knew they were being hunted. Somewhere behind them, something gave chase, fast, unnatural, getting closer. But then through the trees, Lena saw it. A fence. Her fence. Home. With a final burst of strength, she sprinted toward it, her lungs burning. She vaulted over the fence, tumbled into her backyard, and collapsed into the grass. Her vision blurred. Her breath hitched. She was home, but the forest was still watching, and it was not done with her yet. Lena lay sprawled in the grass, chest rising and falling rapidly, trying to convince herself it was over, that the nightmare was behind her. Her house stood just a few feet away, its familiar blue shutters and white porch like a lighthouse in the storm. Oliver squirmed weakly in her arms. His breathing, once rapid and shallow, was slowing, stabilizing. His tiny paws trembled, but the red glow in his eyes had faded completely. His fur, though stained and messy, was soft again. His nose twitched with recognition as he pressed against Lena's chest. "You're okay. We're okay," Lena whispered, hugging him tightly as tears welled in her eyes. But her relief was short-lived. A distant growl echoed from the tree line. Shadows flickered between the trunks. The forest hadn't let go, not entirely. It lingered, watching, waiting. Lena staggered to her feet, limping toward the house. Every muscle in her body screamed in pain, every step heavier than the last. She shoved open the back door, bolted it shut, and leaned against it, sliding down to the floor. Silence, for the first time in what felt like an eternity. Silence. Her gaze drifted around the kitchen. Everything was exactly as she left it. Her unfinished breakfast, her school bag on the counter, the TV quietly playing some old sitcom as if the outside world hadn't noticed the nightmare festering in the woods. Lena carried Oliver to the living room, laying him gently on a pile of soft blankets. His eyes fluttered, then closed, his breathing deep and peaceful. "I need to help you, properly," Lena muttered, rushing to the bathroom. She grabbed disinfectants, ointments, and bandages. She cleaned the scratch on his paw, wiped the dried blood from his fur, and wrapped his injured leg. For the first time since this began, Oliver looked comfortable. He twitched his nose, then nestled into the blanket with a soft sigh. But then, something caught her attention. A faint pulsing sound. Lena's eyes darted toward the window. She pulled the curtain aside and her blood ran cold. At the edge of the forest, just beyond her backyard, symbols had been carved into the trees. Fresh, glowing faintly red, and standing between them was a figure. Tall, thin, faceless, its head tilted slightly, observing the house. Lena gasped and stumbled back, heart hammering in her chest. She checked the doors. Locked. Windows locked. "It can't come in. It can't," she whispered, trying to convince herself. But as the minutes dragged on, the figure didn't move, didn't flinch, just watched. Her phone. She scrambled for it. No signal, no Wi-Fi, no connection at all. Static filled every screen. The isolation was suffocating. A sudden loud thud rattled the back door, then another. Lena grabbed a chair and shoved it against the door, then backed away, knife in hand, shaking uncontrollably. "No, you're not taking him. You're not taking him." The thudding stopped. Silence. She rushed back to Oliver. His little eyes blinked open, staring at her, but then something strange happened. A glow, not red, blue. From under his fur, small lines of light, pulsing like veins, spread across his body. It wasn't the eye infection, it was something else. Lena stared, breathless. What's happening to you?" Oliver sat up, stronger than before. His ears perked and his eyes, now glowing soft blue, locked onto Lena's. He wasn't scared. He was aware, and somehow changed. For a few seconds, the entire world seemed frozen. Lena stared at Oliver, her hands trembling as the soft blue glow pulsed beneath his fur. His nose twitched slowly, his ears standing alert, and his small chest rose and fell with calm, steady breaths. But it wasn't just his physical recovery that stunned her. It was the way he looked at her. Not like a pet, not like an animal, but like something more, something conscious, aware. "Oliver?" Lena whispered, taking a hesitant step forward. He tilted his head slightly, his blue eyes scanning her face as if trying to communicate something. Then slowly he thumped his back leg once, twice, and then 3 times. Lena gasped. "Wait, that's the signal for danger nearby." Her voice trembled. "But you've never done it like this, and not so deliberate." Oliver stood shakily, his little paws pressing into the blanket. Despite the glow pulsing through him, his body was still weak, but there was no denying it. Something inside him had changed. Whatever happened at the root, whatever broke, left him different. Lena knelt beside him. Can you understand me?" she asked, feeling ridiculous even as the words left her mouth. Oliver responded with a slow nod. Her heart nearly stopped. A loud crack echoed from outside, like a tree snapping in half. Lena bolted to the window, pulling the curtain aside. The figure was gone, but the symbols on the trees, and they were brighter now. More of them, expanding like a spreading infection, but not like before, not organic. This was deliberate, intelligent. Then deep within the forest a new sound rose, a deep rhythmic hum, almost mechanical, pulsing, vibrating the ground beneath her feet. Lena's phone buzzed suddenly. She grabbed it, expecting another error, but instead the screen was filled with static, then symbols. The same symbols from the tunnel, from the trees. But now, they were moving, rearranging, forming patterns. Then a single message flashed in broken text. "It's not over," said to the phone shut off completely. No, Lena muttered, pacing. "This was supposed to be over. I destroyed the route. I did." "Everything?" Oliver let out a low grunt and hopped toward her, pawing at her boot. He thumped once, hard. "Danger." Lena crouched. What is it?" Oliver looked toward the back door, then the floor beneath them, his ears flattened. Then Lena heard it. A rumbling, faint, but growing. From below, the floorboards vibrated, dust sifting down from the ceiling. Something was moving beneath the house. Her eyes widened. No, not here, not in my home. Suddenly, the ground split. A jagged crack tore across the living room floor, splitting the wood. From the gap, a thick black vine surged upward, writhing like a serpent covered in glowing red veins. "Run!" Lena screamed, scooping Oliver up and sprinting toward the front door. The vine lashed, smashing furniture, splintering the walls. As Lena yanked the door open, a blast of cold wind hit her face, along with a horrifying sight. The forest was changing. Trees twisted unnaturally, contorting into spirals of bone and bark. Roots crawled over the ground like fingers, and rising in the distance, a massive shadowy structure, towering, pulsing, breathing. Not a tree, not a creature, but it's something else entirely. A new form of the infection, a new nightmare, and it was spreading fast. Lena gritted her teeth, holding Oliver close. "I don't know what's happening, but I'm not running anymore." She turned toward the forest. The sky darkened unnaturally fast. Clouds twisted into unnatural spirals, blotting out the sun, casting the world into an eerie crimson twilight. Lena sprinted down the street, Oliver cradled in her arms as the ground trembled beneath her feet. The cracks spreading from her house crawled toward neighboring homes. Roots and black vines surged through gardens, sidewalks, and fences, swallowing everything in their path. Screams echoed in the distance, neighbors fleeing, doors slamming, windows shattering. The infection wasn't just confined to the forest anymore. It had crossed the line. It was here, and spreading. Lena's lungs burned as she sprinted toward the edge of town, heading back toward the woods, toward the monstrous tower now rising in the distance. Its surface writhed with twisting roots, bone, like protrusions and pulsing red veins. Every few seconds, a wave of dark energy pulsed from it, making the air ripple like heat waves. Oliver stirred in her arms, his eyes glowing that same strange blue. He thumped once, urgently, then twice, then 3 rapid thumps. Danger, immediate, extreme. Lena skidded to a stop, ducking behind an abandoned truck as something massive stomped across the street ahead. A creature. No, not a creature, a fusion. It walked on 2 legs, but its form was a horrifying blend of animal, plant, and bone. A rabbit skull, stretched grotesquely over what was once a human torso. Thick, sinewy roots wrapped its limbs like muscles. Its mouth, if it could be called that, hung open, oozing black fluid, letting out a low, mechanical growl mixed with wet gurgles. It scanned the street with empty eye sockets that glowed faintly red. Then, with a sudden jerk, it stomped toward a nearby house, smashing through the front wall like paper. Screams erupted. Lena bit her lip, torn between helping and surviving. But then Oliver thumped rapidly, warning her to move now. Right, Lena whispered, gripping her knife tightly as she sprinted across the road, ducking into a side path that led straight toward the forest's edge. But as she crossed the last fence, her foot caught, sending her sprawling into the dirt. Her flashlight flew from her hands, landing at the base of something strange, a stone, standing upright, covered in the same symbols. But this one wasn't like the others. It wasn't glowing red, it was glowing blue. Oliver immediately hopped from her arms and approached the stone. His blue glow pulsed in sync with the symbols. Lena scrambled to her feet, watching in disbelief as Oliver pressed his tiny paw against the stone. A pulse of light burst outward, momentarily pushing back the suffocating red glow invading the area. And then, a voice, soft, feminine, echoing from everywhere and nowhere. The infection spreads because the balance was broken, it whispered. Lena spun around. Who's there? No answer. Only the wind and the next part of the message. The forest was cursed long before you arrived. The root you destroyed was only a seed. The true corruption lies within the hollow. The hollow? Lena repeated, confused. She turned toward Oliver, who looked back at her, nodding as if to say, yes, we have to go there. The blue light from the stone shifted, forming a line, a trail, leading deep into the forest, not toward the monstrous tower, but beneath it, underground. Beneath the roots of the nightmare, the hollow. Lena exhaled, gripping her knife and her backpack straps. Okay, we end this one way or another. Together, Lena and Oliver stepped onto the path of blue light, leaving behind the shattered remains of their peaceful life. Ahead lay answers, or oblivion. The deeper Lena followed the glowing trail, the more the world shifted around her. The forest was no longer the forest she once knew. The trees groaned as if in pain, their trunks twisted with bone-like spines and pulsing red veins. Branches curled down toward the ground, moving unnaturally, alive. But the blue glow from the stone path kept them at bay. Wherever the light touched, the corruption recoiled, hissing, retreating into the shadows. Oliver hopped beside her now, stronger. The blue lines beneath his fur pulsing rhythmically like a heartbeat synced to the earth itself. Occasionally he would stop, tilt his head, ears twitching. Then, thump, once, twice, warning her of nearby threats they couldn't yet see. As they reached a clearing, the ground trembled violently. Before them, the earth split open, revealing a massive sinkhole. From its depths, a spiraling staircase descended into complete darkness. Faint, blue glyphs floated along the edges, markings identical to those on the standing stone. This was the hollow. Lena swallowed hard. No turning back now. She tightened her grip on the flashlight, checked her knife, then carefully stepped onto the staircase. Oliver right behind her. The air grew colder with every step down. The sound of the outside world faded completely, replaced by a deep, resonating hum, like something huge. Sleeping, breathing. The stairs spiraled deeper and deeper until finally, the walls opened into an enormous underground cavern. Lena gasped. In the center stood a colossal, pulsating mass, the heart of the hollow. It was neither tree nor flesh, but something in between. Roots, bones, and sinew intertwined to form a grotesque sphere floating above a pit of glowing red liquid. Hundreds, maybe thousands, of infected creatures were suspended from its roots. Rabbits, deer, foxes, even distorted human forms. Their eyes flickered, dimly as if trapped between life and death. The walls were covered in more of the same symbol. But now Lena noticed something else. Parts of them were written in blue. A different energy, a different force, not corruption, but resistance. Oliver hopped forward, pressing his paw to one of the blue symbols. The ground trembled as the symbol flared brighter, sending a wave of blue light through the chamber. A roar echoed from the far side. Lena spun around, her breath caught. From the shadows emerged a creature far larger than anything she'd seen. It was the fusion of everything the infection had ever consumed. Its limbs were mismatched. Some animal, some human, some twisted roots. A rabbit skull stretched wide crowned its head while jagged bone spines jutted from its back. Its eyes glowed crimson. It towered over the chamber, dripping black sludge from every crack in its warped body. It let out a roar that shook the walls, then it lunged. Lena dove aside just in time as a massive claw crashed into the stone where she'd stood. She rolled, slashing with her knife, but the blade barely scratched its hide. It's not enough, she realized. I need to weaken it like the root. Oliver thumped frantically, hopping toward the remaining blue symbols scattered around the cavern. Lena understood immediately. The glyphs, their keys. She sprinted toward the nearest one, pressing her hand against it. A surge of cold energy shot through her arm, and the glyph pulsed bright blue, sending a wave that staggered the creature. Black. Veins along its limbs recoiled briefly, weakening. But the monster recovered fast, too fast. It roared, slamming its claws into the ground, causing a shockwave that sent Lena flying into the wall. Pain exploded in her ribs, her vision blurred. Oliver rushed to her, nudging her face, his glow brighter than ever. Not yet. Lena coughed, pushing herself to her knees. We Finish this. Gritting her teeth, she staggered toward the next glyph. One by one, light against darkness, life against the infection. But time was running out, and the heart of the hollow pulsed faster, angrier with every strike. The final battle had begun. The wind carried a softness Lena hadn't felt in days. It brushed her face gently, stirring the grass and rustling the trees, which no longer groaned with pain but whispered like they used to. Normal. Alive. She sat in her backyard, arms wrapped around Oliver, watching as the morning sun slowly climbed the sky. For the first time in what felt like forever, the forest no longer loomed with malevolence. The monstrous shapes, the twisting roots, the pulsing red veins, they were gone. Only the memory of them lingered. Lena looked down at Oliver. His nose twitched, his fur clean once again, but something about him was undeniably changed. Not corrupted, not infected, evolved. His eyes, now their usual rich black, still shimmered faintly under certain angles. Traces of the blue, energy that had saved them both. Whatever had happened in the hollow had left a permanent mark. "You're not just a rabbit anymore, are you?" Lena whispered, stroking his soft ears. Oliver tilted his head and thumped his back leg gently, a familiar sound but slower, calmer. Version of "No, I'm not." A deep ache pulled at Lena's chest as her gaze turned toward her house. It was damaged. Cracks. Across the walls, furniture shattered, the scars of what had crawled into their world. But it was still standing, just like me, still standing. The phone signal returned with a faint chime. Notifications flooded her screen, emergency alerts, reports of strange phenomena disappearing as quickly as they had come. Government agencies were calling it a localized environmental anomaly. Officials were baffled. No one had answers. But Lena knew the truth. She scrolled through the news. The outbreak hadn't spread beyond the forest, somehow destroying. The hollow had contained it, but her relief was short-lived. An image caught her eye, a satellite photo of a forest halfway across the world. Zoomed in. There was a shape, a familiar one, a massive root-like spiral carved into the earth, identical to the glyphs she had seen underground. Her blood ran cold. This wasn't just here, she whispered. Oliver pressed his head against her chest, letting out a soft grunt. He knew it too. The infection and the curse wasn't isolated, it was global. Maybe older than anyone could comprehend. A shadow passed overhead. Lena flinched, looking up, but it was just a bird gliding peacefully against the clear sky. For now, peace had returned. But how long would it last? Lena stood, brushing dirt from her clothes. Okay, she breathed, determination rising in her chest. We survived this. Whatever comes next, we'll survive that too. She looked down at Oliver. Right? Oliver blinked. Then, for the first time ever, let out a tiny chirping sound. A sound he'd never made before, somewhere between a rabbit's grunt and something almost like speech. Lena's eyes widened. She dove, driving the blade deep into a glowing crack at its center. For a split second, everything went silent. Then an explosion of light, blinding, consuming. Blue light flooded every corner of the hollow, vaporizing the corrupted roots, tearing the monster apart piece by piece. The screams of the infected faded into nothing as the entire cavern trembled violently, the corruption peeling back like shadows before the dawn. The heart shattered. A wave of force knocked Lena off her feet. Her body slammed into the cavern floor. Pain shot through her, but not like before. The air felt different, clean, cold, free. Silence. When Lena opened her eyes, the hollow was empty. The monster gone. The roots gone. The infection purged. All that remained were the faintly glowing blue glyphs lining the stone, fading slowly as if their purpose had been fulfilled. She sat up, gasping. Oliver! Oliver! Frantically, she searched the dust and rubble. Then a tiny, familiar twitch. Oliver emerged from behind a collapsed stone, his fur singed but still glowing softly. He blinked at her, wobbled, then hopped straight into her arms. Lena laughed, half relief, half disbelief as she hugged him tightly. We did it, we actually did it. But as she held him, her gaze turned upward. Cracks spread across the cavern ceiling. Rocks trembled. The hollow was collapsing. Come on. Lena stood holding Oliver close. We're not done yet. They had to escape before this whole place buried them forever. The cavern trembled violently, sending showers of dust and stone from the ceiling. Cracks, spiderwebbed across the walls, and massive chunks of rock began crashing to the floor. The hollow was dying, collapsing in on itself now that the heart was destroyed. "Come on, come on!" Lena gasped, clutching Oliver tightly against her chest. His tiny body shivered, but his glowing blue eyes stayed locked on hers, trusting her completely. She spun around, scanning for a way out. The spiral staircase they'd descended was completely destroyed, buried beneath tons of rubble. The tunnel that led them here had caved in. "There has to be another way," her mind screamed. Then Oliver's ears twitched. He thumped twice, sharp, urgent, then twisted in her arms, pointing, his nose toward the far end of the chamber. Lena squinted through the dust and falling debris. At first it looked like solid wall, until a section flickered like static on a broken screen. A shimmering veil. "A portal!" she whispered. "Another portal!" A deafening crash behind her sent a shockwave of panic through her spine. A massive root fell where she'd stood moments ago, no time to hesitate. Lena sprinted, dodging collapsing stones, weaving between cracking pillars. The ground quaked violently, threatening to throw her off balance, but her adrenaline pushed her forward. The portal flickered, its edges unstable. Unlike the one before, this one pulsed erratically, glitching between blue and red, as though it was struggling to stay open. A boulder crashed from above, smashing the ground just inches behind her. Almost, she gasped. As she neared the portal, a final tremor hit. The floor split wide beneath her feet. Lena screamed as she fell, managing to grab the jagged edge with one hand. Oliver scrambled onto her shoulder, clinging desperately. Her fingers slipped once, twice, then she summoned everything left in her and pulled herself up. Gasping, legs burning, she staggered forward and dove into the portal. The moment she crossed the threshold, everything went white. Sound vanished. Gravity vanished. It felt like falling and flying at the same time. Her body weightless, Oliver pressed tightly against her chest. Colors swirled, blue, white, black, red, then stretched into streaks of light. For a terrifying moment, she thought it wasn't going to work, that they were trapped between worlds. Then impact. Lena landed hard, rolling over grass, dirt, and leaves. Her breath hitched as she pushed herself up, blinking against the sunlight. Sunlight. She was outside. The portal behind her flickered once, then collapsed in on itself, vanishing with a soft pop, leaving only a ring of burned grass. Lena gasped for breath, clutching Oliver. She turned slowly. She was at the edge of the forest, her forest. Her backyard was just visible through the trees, but something was different. The sky was clearer, brighter than it had been in days. The oppressive red glow that had loomed over everything was gone. The twisted, infected trees were healing, roots retreating, leaves regrowing where decay once spread. It was over, at least for now. Oliver shifted in her arms, his breathing steady. His blue glow faded, replaced by the normal shimmer of sunlight on his white fur. He blinked at her, twitched his nose, and for the first time in days looked like her Oliver again. Lena laughed weakly, tears streaking down her face. "We made it, buddy. We actually made it." But as her gaze drifted back toward the forest, her smile faded slightly. In the distance, beyond the tallest trees, a new shape stood on the horizon. Something far away. Watching, waiting. A reminder. The infection was gone here, but the curse was far older, far deeper than this forest alone. This was just the beginning. The wind carried a softness Lena hadn't felt in days. It brushed her face gently, stirring the grass and rustling the trees, which no longer groaned with pain but whispered like they used to. Normal. Alive. She sat in her backyard, arms wrapped around Oliver, watching as the morning sun slowly climbed the sky. For the first time in what felt like forever, the forest no longer loomed with malevolence. The monstrous shapes, the twisting roots, the pulsing red veins, they were gone. Only the memory of them lingered. Lena looked down at Oliver. His nose twitched, his fur clean once again, but something about him was undeniably changed. Not corrupted, not infected, evolved. His eyes, now their usual rich black, still shimmered faintly under certain angles. Traces of the blue energy that had saved them both. Whatever had happened in the hollow had left a permanent mark. "You're not just a rabbit anymore, are you?" Lena whispered, stroking his soft ears. Oliver tilted his head and thumped his back leg gently, a familiar sound but slower, calmer. Version of "No, I'm not." A deep ache pulled at Lena's chest as her gaze turned toward her house. It was damaged. Cracks. Across the walls, furniture shattered, the scars of what had crawled into their world. But it was still standing, just like me, still standing. The phone signal returned with a faint chime. Notifications flooded her screen, emergency alerts, reports of strange phenomena disappearing as quickly as they had come. Government agencies were calling it a localized environmental anomaly. Officials were baffled. No one had answers. But Lena knew the truth. She scrolled through the news. The outbreak hadn't spread beyond the forest, somehow destroying. The hollow had contained it, but her relief was short-lived. An image caught her eye, a satellite photo of a forest halfway across the world. Zoomed in, there was a shape, a familiar one, a massive root-like spiral carved into the earth, identical to the glyphs she had seen underground. Her blood ran cold. This wasn't just here," she whispered. Oliver pressed his head against her chest, letting out a soft grunt. He knew it too. The infection and the curse wasn't isolated, it was global. Maybe older than anyone could comprehend. A shadow passed overhead. Lena flinched, looking up, but it was just a bird gliding peacefully against the clear sky. For now, peace had returned. But how long would it last? Lena stood, brushing dirt from her clothes. Okay, she breathed, determination rising in her chest. "We survived this. Whatever comes next, we'll survive that too." She looked down at Oliver. "Right?" Oliver blinked. Then, for the first time ever, let out a tiny chirping sound, a sound he'd never made before, somewhere between a rabbit's grunt and something almost like speech. Lena's eyes widened. Oh, you are changing." A nervous laugh escaped her lips. "This is gonna get weird, isn't it?" She looked back toward the forest. "Yeah, it's definitely not over." The days that followed felt like waking from a nightmare you weren't sure was real. The forest was healing. The air no longer carried the heavy stench of decay, and the oppressive hum of the infection was gone. But despite the peaceful facade, Lena couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching. She noticed small things. At night, the TV flickered with static before switching channels on its own. Her phone, fully charged, would die randomly, then turn itself back on, flashing symbols she couldn't understand. Once she heard scratching, not from inside the house, but from inside the walls. Oliver noticed it too. He was different now, more alert, smarter. He would sit by the window for hours, staring into the tree line, ears twitching at sounds Lena couldn't hear. His glow had faded, but hadn't disappeared entirely. Every now and then, especially at night, faint blue lines would pulse beneath his fur like circuitry. One evening, Lena tried to ignore it all. She curled up on the couch with Oliver in her lap, scrolling mindlessly through her phone. That's when it happened. The screen glitched, hard. It flashed to black, then filled with the same glyphs from the hollow. Her hands trembled as she tried to shut it off, but the phone refused. Then a single line of text appeared. The hollow was a fraction. Her heart raced. More symbols flickered, then another message. The spiral returns. And then an image, a satellite feed of an island, remote, uninhabited. At its center, a perfectly symmetrical spiral carved deep into the earth. From the middle, something dark was growing, twisting, rising. No, Lena whispered. Her breath hitched as her hands shook. Oliver stiffened. His ears shot back. His nose twitched rapidly. Then, thump, thump, thump. Extreme danger. As she stared at the screen, another line of text appeared, this time scrolling faster, almost frantic. It's not just here. They're waking up. Prepare. The screen shut off. Lena sat frozen, her pulse hammering in her ears. A sickening realization crept through her chest. It's spreading, that this was just the beginning. She looked down at Oliver. His eyes met hers, not with fear, but with something deeper. Determination. Lena stood slowly, gripping the phone. Okay, she whispered. Then we get ready. But as she turned toward her basement, her dad's old storage filled with tools, supplies, things meant for emergencies, something else happened. A low hum filled the air, not mechanical, not natural. It was a voice. Not in her ears. In her mind. A whisper, soft, echoing. You cannot stop the spiral, but you can choose on which way it turns. She spun around, searching the room. Who's there? Silence. Then a sudden sharp knock at the front door. 3 perfect rhythmic taps. Lena's throat went dry. No one should be here. Slowly, knife in hand, she approached the door. Her fingers trembled as she reached for the handle. She threw it open. But no one was there. Only a box. A simple old wooden box carved with the same spiral symbol burned into its surface. Lena stared. Oliver hopped forward, sniffing it, his ears flattening. He thumped twice. Caution. With trembling hands, Lena knelt and slowly opened the lid. Inside was something that made her breath catch. A map. Not of her town. 3 perfect rhythmic taps. Lena's throat went dry. No one should be here. Slowly, knife in hand, she approached the door. Her fingers trembled as she reached for the handle. She threw it open. But no one was there. Only a box. A simple old wooden box carved with the same spiral symbol burned into its surface. Lena stared. Oliver hopped forward, sniffing it, his ears flattening. He thumped twice. Caution. With trembling hands, Lena knelt and slowly opened the lid. Inside was something that made her breath catch. A map. Not of her town. Not of her forest. But the world, and marked all across it, were spirals. Some large, some small. All glowing faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. And in the center of the map, one final message burned into the paper. It's already begun. Lena unfolded the map carefully, her hands trembling. The parchment felt ancient, rough, almost like skin, but it pulsed faintly with warmth, as if alive. The spirals drawn across the continents glowed, softly, their faint blue and red outlines flickering like a dying heartbeat. Her eyes scanned the markings. Each spiral was perfectly symmetrical, etched with the same strange symbols she had seen in the hollow. Dozens of them. No, hundreds. Some in remote forests, others deep in oceans, deserts, mountain ranges, even near large cities. A cold realization washed over her. It's everywhere. Oliver pressed his head against her leg, his nose twitching rapidly. His little body trembled, not from fear, but from anticipation. His glow returned subtly, as if the map itself was activating something within him. In the center of the map was one spiral larger than the rest. It wasn't marked over a location, but floated above them all, a symbol of something bigger. Above it, scrawled in jagged ink, were 2 words. The Nexus. Lena whispered it aloud. The Nexus. Her voice shook. She flipped the map over. On the back, burned into the fibers, was a set of coordinates. Beneath them, another line of text. When one root dies, another awakens. She gulped, gripping the edges tighter. This never ends. But then, thump, thump, thump. Oliver tapped rapidly against the floor, his body stiff, ears flat. His warning signal. Lena's eyes snapped toward the window. Shadows were moving at the edge of the tree line, not like before, not infected, but something else. Silhouettes, figures, watching. Then, the hum returned. Low, subsonic. It vibrated her bones more than her ears. The same voice, from before, inside her mind. You broke the hollow, now the spiral watches you. Her breath hitched. What do you want from me? No answer. Only a sudden shift. The spirals on the map flared, one of them turned red, then another and another. It spread like wildfire across the paper. The blue symbols dimmed and the red pulsed faster, angrier, as if something, somewhere, awakened. Oliver squeaked sharply and jumped into her arms. His body tensed. A deep vibration shook the house. Pictures rattled off the walls. The lights flickered. Her phone buzzed wildly, lighting up with static and broken text. The spiral doesn't sleep. They're coming! Nexus breach imminent. Then the phone died completely. Black screen. Dead. Outside, the shadows moved closer, slow, deliberate steps. A loud thud echoed from the back door. Then another. And another. Something was testing the walls. Testing the house. Lena sprinted to her dad's old storage cabinet, yanking it open. Emergency supplies, batteries, tools. rope, a rusted flare gun. Her fingers hovered over it, trembling. "What do I even do?" she whispered, looking back at the map. The red spirals pulsed violently now, bleeding into one another, converging toward the center, the nexus. Oliver let out a sudden, high-pitched squeal. He hopped toward the window, ears stiff, staring into the trees. And then Lena saw it. Between the trees, an eye, massive, round, blinking sideways like a reptile. It opened in the darkness, its pupil a swirling spiral of red and black. It was watching her. It had always been watching. Then it blinked. The ground split. The sky flickered like a broken screen. Reality itself trembled. A voice, no longer a whisper, roared inside her skull. The nexus opens. A shockwave of red light surged toward the house. Lena grabbed Oliver, yanked the flare gun, and sprinted toward the basement stairs as the walls exploded inwards. The spiral had come for them. The basement door slammed behind her as Lena bolted down the stairs, clutching Oliver tight against her chest. Her heart pounded so loudly it drowned out the chaos above. Wood splintered. Glass shattered. The roar of the spiral's energy ripped through her house like a hurricane. Dust fell from the ceiling as deep cracks tore through the foundation. The air vibrated, heavy, electric, suffocating. Lena reached the bottom of the stairs, skidding across the concrete floor. Her father's old workbench sat in the corner, covered in forgotten tools, tangled wires, and half-finished projects. This space, once a quiet place for repairs, now felt like the last safe pocket in a crumbling world. Oliver squirmed in her arms, his tiny paws pushing against her chest. He wasn't scared, he was focused. His fur flickered with pulses of blue light, brighter than ever before. Lena dropped him gently onto the floor. Okay, think. Her eyes darted across the room. On the far wall, an old breaker panel. Next to it, the rusted remains of her dad's emergency radio setup. Shortwave. Satellite connected. Half broken, but maybe enough. She sprinted to it, flipping switches, twisting knobs. Static filled the basement, screeching in and out of frequencies. Her hands trembled. "Come on, work. Suddenly, a voice crackled through the speaker. Faint, warped, but real. "If anyone can hear unbreach detected, nexus expanding, repeat, nexus expanding, containment failing." Her breath hitched. They know. Then, a deafening boom from above. The ceiling shook. A massive root, black, writhing, pulsating, with red veins punched through the living room floor, slamming into the foundation. The house groaned as walls collapsed inward. Oliver thumped, fast, urgent. His tiny body trembled but stood firm. Lena spun, raising the flare gun. Not yet! Another voice surged into her head, this time different, multiple, layered, deep, ancient. Not a whisper, a chorus. The spiral consumes. "You are marked." The walls of the basement cracked, bleeding red light. The air shimmered like broken glass, and for a moment, the basement peeled away like a curtain lifting, revealing something beneath reality. A space between worlds. A swirling void of spirals, massive, endless, stretching into infinity. Floating chunks of land fractured. Cities, pieces of forests, creatures, bones, machines. A graveyard of dimensions twisted into a labyrinth of red and black. At the center of it all, the nexus. A colossal sphere. Pulsing, breathing, alive. Its surface writhed with millions of eyes, blinking, watching, shifting. A beam of red energy shot from the nexus straight toward Lena. "Move!" she screamed, diving aside as the energy pierced through where she stood, vaporizing the floor. Concrete shattered into nothing. She crawled to Oliver, who stood frozen, his body glowing brighter than ever. Not blue, not just energy, something new. Suddenly, his glow pulsed outward in a shockwave of white light, blasting back the encroaching red. The basement flickered. Reality snapped back, the walls returning, but fractured. As if the spiral's influence couldn't fully take hold here yet. Lena stared in shock. "Oliver, what are you?" Oliver turned, locking eyes with her. In that moment, something passed between them. Not words, not thoughts, but understanding. He wasn't just a rabbit anymore. He was a counterforce, a manifestation of something the spiral didn't control. Balance. Lena staggered to her feet as the radio sparked one final time. A voice, clear this time, broke through. If you are receiving this, you are not alone. Others are fighting back. Find the gate. Follow the signal. Survive the spiral. Then static. The ceiling split open. Roots surged downward. Lena grabbed the map, the flare gun, and Oliver. We run again. A blast of red light shattered the staircase, no way back up. But behind the breaker panel, she noticed something. A crack, a hidden passage, an old maintenance tunnel her dad once mentioned but she'd never seen. Without thinking, she kicked it open. Darkness stretched beyond. The Nexus roared behind her. But Lena turned, holding Oliver tight. We're not done yet, she growled. And they vanished into the tunnel, chased by the spiral but not consumed. Not yet. The narrow maintenance tunnel stretched on endlessly, barely tall enough for Lena to crouch. Her breath echoed against the concrete walls, mingling with the distant thunder of collapsing earth behind them. The spiral's roar faded slowly, but its presence lingered, heavy, suffocating. Oliver hopped ahead, guiding her with his glow, no longer faint but radiant. White lines pulsed beneath his fur, cutting through the suffocating darkness like a living beacon. Every few steps he paused, ears twitching, checking for dangers Lena couldn't see. We're almost there, wherever there is, Lena whispered, gripping the flare gun tightly in one hand, and the map pressed against her chest with the other. A curve appeared ahead. The tunnel widened into a chamber, an old fallout shelter. Dust-covered, shelves lined the walls, stacked with supplies long forgotten. But what caught Lena's attention wasn't the supplies. It was the door. A steel vault door partially open, and beyond it, light. Not red, not corrupted. Blue. Lena staggered forward, pushing the door open. A gust of fresh air rushed past her face, almost making her stumble. She stepped out and gasped. They were on a cliffside overlooking the forest, but the forest was different. The infection was gone. The monstrous tower had collapsed into itself, leaving only a smoking crater where the hollow once stood. The trees were still twisted in places, but healing, slowly knitting themselves back to life. The spiral's influence was retreating, but in the distance beyond the horizon, storm clouds brewed, not natural. Red veins crackled, inside them like lightning, proof that the spiral wasn't dead. Just delayed. Oliver nudged her leg. His glowing eyes stared up at her. He wasn't trembling, he wasn't afraid. Lena crouched, gently scooping him into her arms. We did it, for now. Her eyes drifted back to the map. The spiral still pulsed faintly, but most had faded. Except one, the Nexus. It still glowed. This isn't over, Lena whispered. But maybe, just maybe, it's a fight we can win. A distant rumble echoed behind the clouds. Lena smiled weakly, wiping the dirt from her face. Come on, Oliver, let's go home. But as they turned to leave, something shifted behind them. On the wall near the vault door, new symbols had appeared, not drawn, not carved. Grown. Alive. A spiral, yes, but different, not red, not blue. White. A third force. A new balance. As Lena stared, a whisper, soft, almost comforting, brushed her mind. The spiral consumes, but the spiral also creates. She didn't know what it meant. Not yet, but she would find out. Because this was only the end of the first story. The spiral isn't done, and neither are we. If you think this story was insane, wait until you see what's coming next. You won't sleep after watching it. And remember, the spiral is always watching. If you liked the video, leave your like. Comment what you thought, follow me, and share the video, and see you in the next video.